everyone, and welcome to our series celebrating John Peracos's centenary of birth. I have with me a very special guest, Jorge Galindo from the Córpore Institute, Energetics Institute in Mexico. Welcome, Jorge.
Hi, Regnil. Hi, everyone. Glad to be with you, and thanks for the invitation.
I appreciate you being here. In many ways, you are one of our seniors in this community because I understand you trained with John in the very first training that he may have run, or pretty early on.
Well, it was the first training he made in Mexico. Okay. If I think it was in the 90s, early 90s. So wonderful. Time has gone, yeah. Not easy to assimilate senior in this moment, but I am in a way.
Very youthful senior, excuse me.
Yeah, the spirit feels young.
I love it. I love it. So how did you first hear of John or meet John back in the day?
Well, I was already a body psychotherapist or body-oriented work since the 80s.
You trained in bioenergetics as well, didn't you?
I was mainly trained in Reichian work and then some of bioenergetics. So suddenly I began to hear about John because of bioenergetics, but he was not in the institute. He was already gone from the institute. This was in the 80s. He left the Institute of Core Energetics in the 70s, 76, something like that. And then it was, there was a Congress in Mexico, an international bodywork Congress in, if I don't remember bad, in 1989. 1989. And of course I went, and one of the main speakers was John. So of course I didn't knew him at that time, but I went to the workshop. We were about maybe 70 people. It was a big room and all people seated around. And he made a workshop. It was a afternoon workshop, maybe between 3-4 hours. And that's how I met him.
And what were your thoughts and experiences?
Well, the impression I had in that moment is that because he just make a small introduction about his work. You know, he was very passionate about his work, so he speak a little, and then he began to ask for volunteers to come to the fore and make a piece of work. And my impression was that he got to the point very deep, very soon. So I began to feel impressed how he was able to go really deep. And of course, I was one of with my hands, but between 70 people, maybe 10 have the chance or something like that. But something that was amazing for me is I was with one friend. Well, I was with some friends, but one of my friends, a female friend, has the opportunity to get into the work. He chose her to come to the front.
Yes.
And of course, I knew her history. I knew her issues. I knew her. So I knew what was in her bag, let's say. So when he worked with her, then I was more than amazed, because in minutes, he went to the core of her issues, and I knew her issues. So I was like, wow, how was he able to go so quick to the core issue of her character, core issue? And that that moment was my aha moment, when I said, it's true. I mean, he works really, I don't know how, you know, it was a mysterious for me. And after the workshop ended, a group of, we were already psychotherapists, young psychotherapists, we began to talk between us and say, well, we want to learn more from this man. So that was when the initiative began.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so you approached John, and what was his response?
John, to make a workshop. It was I mean, 4 hours for us was, at the end,
Not
it
enough.
was too little.
Yes,
So we
of
say,
course.
please come and give
Spend time.
us a, yeah, we want to spend more time with you. So
Mm.
we have to wait 1 whole year for
Wow.
him to return and
Mhm.
give a 4 days workshop. And
Wonderful.
of course, after the workshop, we ask for a training. And then again, 1 full year, we have to
Yes.
wait until the first training was formed.
So you were very thirsty by that time when he got there.
Yeah, well, at that moment, of course, I was very involved in my own process.
Practice.
I'm still am,
Mm.
but I was
Mm.
very passionate about the work,
Mm.
and it really shocked me the deepness and the how quick he was able to go to the to deep work. So yeah, I
Mm.
was impressed. And during the workshop, he made I have a chance to work with him. We were
Yes.
fewer, we were like 35 people in the workshop, but 4 days.
Yeah.
So I have a chance to make a piece of work with him, and it was amazing. It was very deep. I still
Mm.
remember I went after the work, he told me, go out and walk a little in let's say in the field, because we were
The
in a
nature.
place outside Mexico City in the nature.
Yes.
And it was so deep, and I went out and it was like assimilating the experience and the deep connection with myself. It was a very deep
Wow.
connection with myself.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Wow. What an
amazing.
impression. And then the training, how was that for you?
Well, the training, fortunately, he was able to come a lot of times. We have models with, in fact, he was like our main teacher
Yes.
in this first generation. So it was amazing the work we were doing with him. And I have also the chance to knew other, let's say, old senior staff
The
members,
faculty.
faculty from New
Yes.
York, that some of them came. We have, I mean, we have no teachers in Mexico. There was
Of course.
none of us
At that
was with
time.
a
No.
training. So
Yes.
all the people who came to teach us came from abroad, especially
Mhm.
from New York. So
Of course.
it was amazing to know about him. There
Mm.
was an interesting thing because John was amazing in doing his work and he was very passionate, but in some way he was not so. It was not so clear in the teaching how he do it.
He was a great
It's
practitioner,
interesting.
but not a great teacher sometimes.
To explain himself, he was not so good. Well, I was
Yeah.
trying to grasp, but how do you do it? You know, so it was very interesting that some of the teachers that came,
Yes.
they help us to understand how he did it.
Wonderful.
Some of the part of the methodology,
method.
because he moved a lot in the art. I mean, he was feeling
Mm.
his heart, but
Mm.
in a way there was some methodology behind. I mean, you know, now we know
Mm.
this working, penetrating the mask, releasing the lower self, grounding into the higher self, going into the life plan. Well, there is some methodology, but at that time it was not so clear because he jumped from the working with the mask and suddenly in the higher self,
Lower.
and suddenly so it was, I mean, as someone that I didn't knew the work, it was
Yeah.
like a ping pong, but yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Watching the magician at work, huh?
Yeah, it's true. And then in the training, he told us that he was able to read the energy and all the things, and then say, now I get. He was really good at reading bodies. So then I get part of the magic, you know, that
Yes.
part of the things, and
The
I
method and the
remember a
magic.
lot of us bought these lenses, trying
Yes.
to see the auras, and you know,
Yes.
we try to follow his path just to do what he was doing.
Yes.
So
Of course. He was
it
so
was
inspiring.
interesting. Yeah, he
Yes.
was
Yes.
very inspiring. He was
Yes,
very
yes.
inspiring.
So if I may ask, you'll share a little bit about your process and how you met John and that teaching journey. From a very personal level, is there anything that you remember of him or anything that stands out for you all these years later?
Well, there are several things. One thing I'm grateful to him is I was raised in a very religious family. And then as soon as I was able in my youth, 17th, 18th, I really cut that off, run away, and I threw spirituality and religion and everything to the garbage, you know. So I was cut off about spirituality, of course, about religion, but with spirituality too. So one of the really big gifts I received from him was to again meet with the spirituality, and a spirituality that I could respect, that I could honor, that I could receive in my heart. And I think, well, I know that from that process with him, I regained my connection with the spirituality since then. And since then, I open again, not just my personal growth process, but connected with my spirituality to this transpersonal process too. So that was a major gift I received from him. Another thing that I remember and that I respect in the process, he was very open-hearted. He was really guided by the heart. And even when people, I mean, you know, he was very provoking into this lower self stuff, and he was kicking your ass in order for you to bring your lower self out. But it was amazing how you can be really in your lower self, spiteful and whatever, well, more than spiteful, with hate and, you know, whatever comes from the lower self. And he was in front of you, and you could feel that he was receiving you really with his heart open, that he was really truthful in
Present.
that, you know, present in his heart. Yeah, these kind of things, and very truthful. That's another thing I felt, that he was very truthful. In what he said, in what he, sometimes he apologized in things, and that was another important learning to see a teacher to apologize. And even, well, I have the chance to be in New York the last year he was alive in 2000, and he was going through a big process, personal process. And he opened in the New York community. I was present. He cried, and that was another very impressive, touching experience to see my teacher, someone I admire and who I, you know, I believe he has a lot of growth, and suddenly to be so humble to open, to share his pain, and to be comforted by all everyone in the community. It was that was another impression I have, very important.
Wonderful. And so that was just not long before he passed away.
Yeah, it was I went to the Core Institute in New York as it was called junior teacher, the position. It was between assistant teacher and senior teacher.
Full teacher.
Full teacher. So I went a couple of years there, and in December of my last year, he passed away on January. So I was these last 2 years present in New York, having the chance to meet him and to share something more with him. And in December, in the module of December of I think it was 2000, because I don't remember quite well, but I think he died in 2001. He died in January. Correct. So in December was this experience. He was already going through this very difficult personal experience, and he went into this process, and then later on I heard he died a month after, month and a half. Yeah.
So if there was anything you would say to John all these years later, 20 years later after his passing, what would you say to him?
Wow. It touched my heart.
I feel you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just thanks. Thanks. And thanks is a small word to say and to tell him about how much he gave me and how much I feel he have gave to a lot of us. And see us years after he passed away, we're still with his intention, bringing his work, his creation to people, and people is still receiving it. And yeah, it's thanks is infinite gratefulness. Maybe that will be more accurate. Infinite gratefulness, and I hope he has a lot of light. So wherever he is now, I just hope he is dancing Sorba the Greek and enjoying.
And shall we smash some plates as well with him?
Sometimes, yeah, what he wants in light. Yeah. I wonder I want he's in that way. Rejoicing seeing us doing his work, trying to do his work and trying to spread his message. He was so passionate about that.
And as you were speaking, I could feel him, and as I see the people doing the work, I was experiencing your wonder and inspiration when you saw him and he worked with you. So I want to thank you for that, because it just reminds me of the legacy he's left us.
Yeah, a big legacy, and yeah, and mainly I can feel his main legacy, what he was coming from his heart. I mean, his work is impressive, all the concepts and all the methodology, whatever, but the main message is about love and how to do this work from the heart and grounded in your heart and in your truth. I think that's the main legacy.
How beautiful. So you speak about the method, you speak about the technology, you speak about the science, you speak about the art that John displayed. And yet what I really feel is that you put the man, the human, with his heart, with his humility, with his connection and his inspiration, that holds it all together for us to remember him with. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. And I'm sure our global community will really love hearing this, along with all of the other messages, as we celebrate 100 years of John joining us in this body, in this world.
Yeah, that's a wonderful initiative, Ranil. Great. I'm grateful that you have this initiative, and yeah, let's celebrate his life and what he gave us as a legacy. Thanks very much for your invitation.
Wonderful.